One of the most controversial things you can do in the horse world is like get off your horse when something's going wrong, or God forbid, not get back on your horse after you fell off. People immediately say you need to get right back on. You're not going to get over your fear if you don't get right back on. So if you get off when something's going wrong, they say, well, you're teaching the horse a bad habit. You're teaching them to do something bad. You're letting them win. They'll do that every time. If people feel like they do need to get off for any reason, they are going to make the horse work harder, right? They're going to lunge them, or the trainer's going to get on them, or something's going to happen. And it's going to be this punishment phase for the horse. And usually the horse has no idea why they're being punished. So this creates a problem because, as we talked about last episode, horses remember how situations make them feel. We want to make the experience unpleasant so they learn a lesson. But that is totally backwards to the horse's thinking. So, what if ending a session in exhaustion, fear, actually makes your horse worse? Some of you may have noticed this when you've had an incident like this happen. Today, we're going to talk about why and what we can do instead to make everyone feel safe and happy and are ready to go next time. Welcome, friends and fellow horse fiends. I'm Anna Fox of Equus Enlightened, and this is the Thinking Horse and Rider, the podcast dedicated to training you to become the best possible partner for your horse. Here, we explore the science and soul of horsemanship. We dive into equine behavior, the psychology of partnership, and compassionate training methods that help you become a thinking rider who creates a thinking horse. Because when you understand how your horse's mind works and show up with empathy and presence, everything gets easier and a whole lot more fun. My goal is to keep riding easy and fun for everyone, while helping you deepen your connection, find more flow, and maybe even create your own unicorn along the way. Whether you're working on dressage movements or just trying to understand why your horse did that thing they did, we'll explore the research, the real talk, and the small shifts that make a big difference in and out of the saddle. So grab your boots, take a deep breath. What are you waiting for? Come ride with me. All right, horse fiends. I'm still in Savannah. Not really, but I'm recording this from the hotel room because as I was recording the last episode, I thought, oh my gosh, there's other things I need to talk about. And that this often happens to me, and then it dysregulates my nervous system because I am so with ideas and I just can't possibly get them all done. So now I have time and I'm going to get another one done. One of the biggest mistakes in traditional training is that we think that we need to train the horses when they probably need to train us. But that's probably going to be a whole other episode. I'm not going to record that today, though. So you have to wait. So, one of the biggest hurdles in traditional horse training is the assumption that horses know the answer or they should know the answer. How should they know? Why should they know? There's a book, it was given to me by Karen Rolfe called The Four Agreements, and that is one of them. Don't make assumptions. Don't assume that your horse knows a thing. Same thing goes for people, right? Don't make assumptions about other people. Don't even make assumptions about the universe. With this assumption, many times our horses are just dysregulated for any number of reasons. Or maybe it's you that has the problem and you're just trying to figure out how to work through it with your horse. Because a horse or a human that is in survival mode is not plotting how to take over the empire. They are trying to survive. They're not trying to manipulate. They're just trying to get by. Last episode, we talked about define a term to use a term. Understand what punishment really means and why it might work. It will only work if a person, see, there I go, right away. I don't even assume that horses are capable of understanding punishment because it only works if the subject understands the question. It only works if they understand the consequence. And they have enough nervous system regulation to learn from said punishment. So if any of those things are missing, punishment is not going to work. Also, punishment in the long term, it's not a long-term solution. We know that from humans, from rats, probably from some monkey studies too. Whatever. We know that in mammals it doesn't work. Reward is always better than punishment, especially when we're talking about long-term results. So when you think about rewarding bad behavior in your horse because you've got off of them, just getting off your horse, I don't think that's enough of a reward. I think it is somewhat a reward for a horse because they're probably wondering why the heck we're riding them in the first place. But it's not enough of a reward to have them go, oh, let me continue whatever that behavior was I was just doing. But people are very emotional about this subject. They think that horses are making calculated business decisions. I think our horses do have a little more capacity for some domestic decision making than they are really given credit for in science right now, just because we don't have a way to measure them, but also they don't have the same capacity that humans have in that realm. So again, don't make the assumption that your horse knows the question, knows the answer to the question, would know of a consequence if they didn't get the question right. You're much safer to assume that your horse is reacting physiologically to something that has their nervous system dysregulated or your nervous system dysregulated. Because oftentimes we put all of the responsibility on the horse and not on the rider. When your nervous system is dysregulated and you start a physiological response, your heart rate increases, your breathing changes, muscles tighten, your vision narrows, your thinking decreases. You shift into survival mode, or your horse shifts into survival mode because the same thing happens to them. If you're somebody who suffers from panic attacks, I've talked to lots of people on the phone when I was dispatching 911 that were having a panic attack. I am not going to tell them that they need to force themselves to remain in whatever situation is causing them to have that panic attack. That doesn't make sense. But we interpret horses when they get overwhelmed as a disobedience. It is one of the biggest myths in horse training. Besides, if they're tired, they'll do whatever you want. But we talked about that last time. That is not nervous system regulation. It's not cooperation. It's exhaustion and maybe compliance. And exhaustion increases anxiety. It increases your stress hormones. It actually lowers your ability to regulate emotionally. Tired brains make worse decisions. Yet people often mistake shutdown or fatigue in horses for calmness. So a horse may look quieter because they're physically depleted, but internally, this nervous system is still highly activated. And because they are designed for flight, if something else happens that triggers that nervous system, that can set them off. And then you're like, oh my gosh, what happened? They're just bad. No, they're not bad. They're responding to their environment. And if we try to work them through it or punish them, make them more tired, make them more exhausted, now the horse associates whatever confusion or overwhelm with the feelings of pressure, exhaustion, confusion, loss of control, and that punishment. So then when you get on the horse the next time and it's not better, it's worse, that's why. That is not emotional regulation, it's survival conditioning. I'm not advocating jump off your horse and put them away when things go wrong. That doesn't send the right message either. But the goal is to teach horses and humans how to relax and how to work through problems, not how to ignore problems, not how to punish problems, certainly not how to make problems worse, which is what a lot of times is happening unknowingly. If you feel like you need to get off of your horse, or you're not even gonna get on your horse that day, that is not a failure. I want you to get that through your thick heads. That is not a failure. Number two, there are other things that you can do to make this playtime, right? Think of it as a game. Think of your time with your horse as fun, not pressure. There are things that you can do to make this session rewarding and education, and your horse be better the next time you get on rather than be worse or have the same problem. Often we hear people talk about, oh, you need to be the leader. You need to show the horse who's boss. Well, a boss and a leader are not the same thing. A leader is someone who recognizes when things are going wrong and finds solutions. So it's your job to realize when neither of you are in a productive learning mode, or one of you isn't in a productive learning mode, and to make a change. If that means getting off of your horse or not getting onto your horse that day, that's totally fine. You can choose to do nothing with your horse. You can choose to take them for a hand graze. That, in fact, would be better than the punishment model we're so familiar with, because at least now the horse has a good feeling about you in the end. When we leave them with a bad feeling, they remember the bad feeling. We actually do a little human to human interaction in the Happy Horse Camp that highlights this for people, because think about when you leave someone with a bad feeling. Like if they give you a bad feeling and then you leave, and then how long does that bad feeling linger with you? As opposed to if you leave someone with a good feeling, how long does that good feeling last? Your good feeling might last, but you're not going to be thinking about it. You're not going to be thinking about, oh my gosh, Sally made me feel so great today. Oh my gosh, Sally was so good today. Oh my gosh, Sally made me feel so happy. Sally made me smile. Sally, you're not gonna do that. It's not gonna happen. Now, if Sally made you feel bad, you're gonna be like, oh God, Sally, why did Sally make me feel bad? Was I not nice to Sally? Sally, what? Ugh. And that's gonna go on for however long you let it go on for, right? Why wouldn't your horse do the same thing? They are capable of emotions. So why wouldn't they do the same thing. They may not do it to the degree, but when they see Sally again, they are going to remember that Sally did not give them a happy feeling. It's really an interesting paradox because most of us think that the more control we have, the safer we are. And that is not true. When horses feel like they have more control of their environment, when they feel like someone is listening to them, when they feel like humans are not trying to dominate all the moments of uncertainty in our human world for them, they can think, they can reason through things. They have some clarity. They can trust their human. There's predictability there. That allows for regulation of the nervous system and for communication. If you can teach your horse that in these moments of dysregulation, in moments of trying times, whatever you want to call them, that they can trust you, the horse is going to become more and more rideable over time. If they feel like they can't trust you, you're going to punish them, or you're going to hand them off to somebody who's going to punish them, or any other number of bad things is going to happen, they are not going to become more compliant magically. What can we do then to make our horse have a happy experience? We can do the reflex to relax that we talked about last week. We can do some groundwork that is positive and allows the horse to do something maybe that they like to do. If you've done groundwork with them before and you know that there's something that they like, a trick that they like to do, if you feel the need to really teach them something, then think about what you were doing when this dysregulation started. And then think about what is the very basic thing that you need to perform whatever you were trying to do. Let's say it was a canter depart and you tried to canter and the horse bucked and you got bucked off. And now you don't want to get back on. But you don't just want to take your horse back to the barn after that experience, right? Well, if I think about a canter depart, what are the things that I need? I need balance. I need energy. And if your horse bucked during it, you probably definitely need relaxation in your canter depart. Now, it could be that the energy or the balance is off and that also threw the relaxation off. Think about it critically for a minute. What thing do I think went wrong there? Was I not relaxed? Was my horse not relaxed? Was my horse not energetic enough? And maybe I had to kick them or hit them with the stick, or maybe I just didn't feel like they wanted to go and they, kicked out at that. Did they stumble? Did they feel like they couldn't get their feet together? What happened? Because if it was a balance issue, now there's lots of exercises that I can do on the ground to help the horse increase their balance, help them know where their feet are. If it was an energy issue, lots of exercises I can do on the ground to increase my horse's responsiveness, have a conversation about energy and how much we need or don't need. If it was a relaxation issue, lots of exercises I can do on the ground for that too. The reflex to relax, we talked about in last episode, rhythmic relaxation, which is basically the reflex to relax in motion. That's really one of my favorites. The others to me feel more technical, but if I have a horse that's dysregulated, if I am dysregulated something happened that's caused us both to now be nervous. This is a wonderful exercise to get into and end on a really good note. You're basically going back to your reflex to relax. Hopefully, you've gotten your horse to the point where when you start to raise your hand, your horse is like, yes, we're returning to relaxation mode. So, what you're going to do is you're just going to do that while you're walking with your horse. Now, interestingly, a lot of horses in the beginning are not taught to walk while they're humans doing something like that. So that may be something that you need to visit. I recommend that you do that after you teach the reflex to relax. And that way, this is available to you when something happens and you're not trying to teach it like that's a bad time to teach something new, right? This is also true when you think about human anxiety, nervous system dysregulation issues. If, for instance, you suffer from panic attacks, the time to learn a breathing technique is not in the middle of the panic attack. You need to train yourself to do that ahead of time. Same thing with our horses. We need to teach them things ahead of time so that when we need them, they're there. Teach your horse to walk along while you have your hand there on their neck. And then you just ask them, can you relax? Now, you can also do just like we did in the beginning of reflex to relax. If they don't relax at the hand pressure, you can use a little bit of the halter pressure. And if they stop, you just have them walk on again. When they release, they will get into that rhythm. It's really great if you can also get into a rhythm. A Jedi mind trick, a little feel on the halter, release, walk again, Jedi mind trick, a little feel in the halter, go again. The more rhythmic you can be, the better it's going to work. And then, as your horse gets really good at that, you can ask them to go further away from you. You can lunge them. I have horses out 20, 30-foot rope and can do the Jedi mind trick with them and get them to relax because they already know the game. Even if your horse is not experienced enough to do it out on the end of a line and pick up the canter at the same time, doesn't matter, you're going to get there. But you can work on where you are with these exercises and then go, okay, this is how I can advance this exercise for when I need to use it or when I want to use it again in the future. So, of course, this week's experiment is playing with that rhythmic relaxation, playing with your reflex to relax in motion. Sometimes the bravest thing a rider can do is stop trying to win in a moment. Not every situation requires escalation. Not every fearful reaction, no fearful reaction warrants punishment. It's not effective. It's going to be detrimental. Not every dismount or unmounted session is a failure. Sometimes the real work is helping a horse or a human come back to a regulated state and leave feeling good. That is the most important part of your time with your horse. Leave them feeling good. Because a horse in survival mode cannot learn. Okay, guys, I think I'm off of my soapbox for this week, and I am going to try and go practice some nervous regulation techniques for myself. Have a great one, and I'll see you next time. All right, horse fiends, thanks for hanging out with us today. If this episode got your gears turning, don't forget to check out Reconnect, Rebuild, and Ride with Heart. The links are in the show notes. It's the program that'll take everything we talked about here and actually help you apply it in real life with your horse. And hey, before you ride off, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a quick rating or review of the show. It helps more riders like you find us and keep these conversations going. All the links you need are waiting in the show notes. Happy riding!